Welcome back to State of the Galaxy. This is the Star Wars show that is about everything, anything, and all things Star Wars, and this is State of the Galaxy, episode number 12. Please enjoy.
For centuries, Alderaan stood as a beacon of hope in the Republic. The Empire came.
I have chosen to test this station's destructive power on your home planet of Alderaan.
Peace while you suffer. The Emperor drowns you in black waters.
He wants me to be Darth Revan again. Serve him as I did centuries ago. He made me a Sith Lord and named me Darth Revan.
The Force does not control you. You saved your Guardian using something you thought was abhorrent. But your motives are still aligned with the Jedi Code.
To arms, men! Defend the throne!
Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him. He was weak and foolish like his father. So I destroyed him.
Master Windu, you have fought gallantly. Worthy of recognition in the archives of the Jedi. It is finished.
To them it is.
I have been waiting for you. Is it true that he is the chosen one?
Hey, and welcome back to State of the Galaxy, episode number 12. Where have you been, Harrison?
I've just been around, round town.
I've been around. And today I'm also joined by Eleanor as well.
Hiya.
And you can probably tell I got my voice back because
Just a wee bit.
it's been three. Well, no, because I did one episode after that. But yeah, so I've been
Darth Vader 1 minute.
yeah.
Anakin Skywalker again.
I did lose my voice for a little bit, but luckily our good friend Guy stepped in and was rather amazing with that. But today, Harrison, you brought a subject along with us.
Lightsabers.
Lightsabers. Okay.
Lightsabers all the way.
Okay. So in what kind of context are we talking about with sabers?
Just single bladed, double bladed.
Okay. Did you find out anything interesting, like anything new that we don't already know?
Nothing new that we don't know.
Okay.
But I would like to sort of talk about why they don't use two-bladed ones in the Jedi Order anymore.
Are we talking saber staffs and things like that?
Yeah.
It was because it was frowned upon.
It's crazy.
Allow me to find the fighting style that was integrated with that. One moment.
In the Old Republic, quite a lot of people had double-bladed lightsabers. Where are they gone? I'd like a double-bladed one, please. And no.
Yeah, it was Geo, the first part of Form 7, and that integrated fighting with a twin-bladed.
So this
saber
is
staff.
why we don't talk about Form 7, eh?
Yeah, pretty much.
Never again.
So yeah, it was kind of frowned upon in the Jedi Order. I mean, obviously we see the lightsaber short staffs with the Sentinel guards in the temple, and I think that's about it. To be
Yeah, I
fair,
think that's probably
because apart from the Old Republic
Okay.
stuff, you never actually see anything else. Oh no, saying that, that Jedi Clone Wars, one of our favourite episodes.
Oh, General Crow.
Yeah, because he fights with two.
badass.
He fights with two saber
He's
stars.
like a
doesn't he?
General Grievous knockoff.
He's amazing.
I'm 2 blades away from a General Grievous.
He is insanely cool. So yeah, I suppose with the ones who were trusted to master it's a bit different. But if you're, I suppose they limited it from Padawan teachings and anyone who could access it. It was kind of like the restricted section in Harry Potter. People, only the worthy ones were able to go there. Or the Screaming Book were like.
The screaming lightsaber.
Oh, I suppose it'd be like this screaming hologram. You have like that old lady peering over your shoulder. So, yeah, and perhaps it was only for the chosen few.
I mean, in the old canon, there's that Kazdan Paratus, the Jedi who's on Raxus Prime. He had a false pike,
Yeah,
but you only see one of that, and he was not very good with it.
no,
You could kill him with one hand of force lightning, so it says it all.
yeah. And something that I was talking to Eleanor earlier today about was the Inquisitors saber staffs and how. Yeah, I mean, but when you saw that on Star Wars Rebels, didn't you think that was rather cool? That reveal was rather nice.
rather stupid. It's like,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
going to spin around and cut my hand off. Like,
Yeah, but you wouldn't cut your hand off because you'd be holding onto the hilt and then
Yeah.
the blades would be on the
But
track,
they're, like,
which still doesn't make any
inexperienced.
sense.
No.
Because that shouldn't be able to work.
They're like inexperienced lightsaber users, so you'd think they might hurt themselves a bit. But no.
Well, they're not so inexperienced. They're part of. They go through quite a lot of vigorous training.
I mean, what are these Inquisitors? Are they like rogue Jedi or something? Or are
No, they were
random
Force users that were acquired by the Empire.
I don't like that. I think that's
Why?
crazy. I don't like the
I mean,
Inquisitors.
even yeah, but remember, even in the Clone Wars, Sidious had that facility on Mustafar where he took young Force sensitives and wanted to train them up.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Darth Maul's brother didn't
Savage
really have
Empress.
the Force very much. He
Well,
was-
no, because he really struggled with
Just like a
his
brutal
training,
lightsaber
his
user.
tutelage under Count Dooku.
Yeah.
He really struggled with that.
In a way, I think they brought Darth Maul back too much. To have a couple of reappearances was a bit much, anyway.
Yeah, but remember that he had an originally canon appearance in, I think it was either the 2D Clone Wars cartoon next season or a graphic novel. I think it may be a graphic novel.
Yeah, I think so.
And then they took that idea and then integrated it into the 3D Clone Wars.
Don't get me wrong, it's cool how he came back.
Oh
to
yeah,
life, but it's a bit like
it doesn't really explain how he gets off of Naboo, because
Yeah,
you
it's like-
you find him on a completely different planet.
And you'd think the Emperor would just ditch him because like, oh, I don't need you now.
But that's
Dead.
that's exactly what he does do.
Yeah, so it's not like he's got the help of him.
No,
Expensive looking legs.
yeah, but remember you find him as crazy Spider Maul to
Yeah.
start off with.
Crazy Spider Maul.
Yeah, he because he survives off of his hatred for Obi-Wan.
Right.
And then I don't know. Do they really explain how that happens? He kind of
No.
builds
Other than
himself.
It looks like General Grievous's legs put on a different person's
Yeah,
body.
he builds himself cybernetic limbs, but they're in the form of a weird spider. And he's just gone insane with his hate for Obi-Wan, and it takes a kind of Night Sister ceremony in order to put him straight.
Oh, fair enough.
He still hates him, but
But the hate
it's
back
not
in the jar.
it's not as untamed as it was.
Hold on to your anger.
But the reason, going back to the Inquisitors, the reason why I wanted to bring them up was the bit that I didn't like was the lightsaber helicopters, and the fact that you were able to fly. with
That's a
them.
bit ridiculous.
It is a bit ridiculous because saber blades don't carry any weight, therefore they shouldn't create any kind of flight ability under any kind of air cushion.
You're saying that it's Ezra's lightsaber as well in Rebels. I don't like that either.
I hate Ezra's first
like
blade.
to have an integrated blaster in it is really, really stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I think it may have been something that we've seen before, but it's not something that we needed to see again.
No, I just disagree with the whole idea.
I think it was because his first weapon was that weird electronic slingshot that he had on his wrist. So they wanted to create a saber that still allowed him to use something as equally irritating.
I mean, I understand they've got a whole sort of like he can make stuff and it's like
Yeah.
and he can make it into something useful, but I don't like that as much.
No.
It's cringy. It's like, oh, I can
Well,
have
fortunately,
my
his.
blaster.
I mean, I'm guessing you saw how his saber ended.
No.
No, Vader cut in half,
Oh,
which was
brilliant.
pretty amazing.
No,
I love it.
yeah.
I did cheer when I was like, "Yes,
Find it in a pesky lightsaber. It's
gone."
Is it even a lightsaber? It looks like a battery for crying out loud.
It does, doesn't it, a bit? But he's now got a normal green, and he's pretty amazing with that. To be fair, New Ezra is okay.
It's like Kylo Ren's lightsaber. I just hate it. It's just
I'm
so stupid. It's like you would just cut yourself holding the blade.
no, you wouldn't.
Yeah, you would.
We've been
because
over this.
If you're two-handed holding it,
Yeah.
your hands would, if you're in a log,
Yeah.
as happened in the film, the little crossguard bits would just end up going into you or someone else. It's
Well, no,
crazy.
because you would hold it like that, and the cross guards would go either side as opposed to facing inwards. If you were
Yeah,
fighting with
so-
it properly.
It's just the whole thing about it looks naff. I understand they got the whole
It's real naff.
It looks edgy because it's like unstable lightsaber crystals and that, but it just looks stupid.
I mean,
Just get a plain Darth Vader lightsaber if you love him that much.
I've never been a fan of Kylo Ren's crossguard. I liked how they justified it by saying that it was an unstable
Oh yeah, that's
crystal, and
kind
those
of
those were like the vents as opposed to secondary protrusions of the blade. But at the same time, yeah, I'm still not a fan. It's not on my top 5 of sabers.
No, I mean Yoda's lightsaber is one of my favourites.
Oh, the Shoto.
It's so small, but it's just so clever as well.
Well, I'm guessing that I think I've told you many times that Luke in the original canon wielded a red Shoto along with his green saber.
Yeah.
But go on then. How about this? If we go across the line, starting with you, what are your 2 favourite types of saber?
Definitely Darth Maul's lightsaber,
Yeah.
and a slightly non-canon story one, Barriss Ophi's. She's got like where she's got the hand grip. It's actually separate on her arm, isn't it? So it's a bit like a baton.
Oh yeah, because
She's got 2 of them.
Oh yeah, I did like the grip of that because she'd hold it on the baton part, wouldn't she? And she'd have the hilt and then the blade going upwards. That was pretty cool.
I mean,
and she wielded two of those.
You have to have really good elbows.
Oh yeah, because if
elbows clash.
But yeah, no, those were a really unique style, and it really kind of catered to her individual stance and fighting style in a way.
I think in a light side sort of way, Kazdan Paratus has became my guy. Little obsessed guy about the Jedi Masters that he's failed in his lightsaber spear. Pretty goddamn cool.
Fair play. How about you then, Eleanor? 2 favourite sabers. I mean, I know that you haven't had much exposure to non-canon stuff, but in terms of the films,
I think definitely Yoda's Shoto.
Yeah.
Purely for the fact that it's just, I think pragmatically, it works extremely well. I think Darth Maul's as well. Even though the double-ended blade, it's an interesting one to think about how it would work within a combat scenario, but in all of the fights that it's been used in,
you just have to work.
just have to lift.
Yeah, I think they're both incredibly good in their own separate ways.
Fair enough. For me, I'd probably have to say, I really liked. I can't remember the name of the saber, but it was a regular hilt in its normal default activation. But then you're able to shorten and elongate the hilt during combat. Which then, if you were fighting with a Shoto, you'd then be able to get the jump on someone. If you were in a lock, you'd then be able to extend it during combat. I found that quite nice. And then probably just the standard. Just standard, but it would have to be like an archaic hilt with
standard blue.
Well, not even really colours, but just the standard hilt, where it offers for a two-handed grip, and then you can swap to a single-handed if you wanted. Although saying that, I really do like Count Dooku and Ventress's curved, and Bane's as well. Curved hilts.
I mean, Count Dooku was meant to actually be able to put them together.
Oh, okay.
Like
I'm guessing then that's what they revived with Ventress's, because you only ever see that in the 2D Clone Wars, don't you? When she puts her.
No, I think she put it together in that short film they did.
Oh, okay.
With the Hutt Son, but she doesn't do it again.
No, because it doesn't really offer for much.
And then when she goes rogue, you don't even see her use a lightsaber much, do you?
No, she's more of a Kanan figure. What lightsabers within the original canon did you not want to see come back?
I always feel there's too many green ones or too many blue ones.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like yellow would be a great one to have.
When I did my fake poster review series and they had a couple of pictures of people with yellow sabers, I was really hoping that they bring a new colour in.
The Jedi Sentinels were so underused. Like that one scene where you see Kanan with them, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Clone Wars was like double the length of that. No real mention at all.
No. I think for me personally, it would probably be the lightsaber whip. Although I loved seeing the Zygerian slavers use their lightsaber torture device, or I suppose light whips. The lightsaber whip for me seemed a bit implausible and just, like you say, naff.
I'd like some force perks as well. They'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
You could literally use it as a spear and like use the force and pull it back and.
No, fair enough. What about? I mean, I know that, again, not non-canon stuff, but in terms of just. Because you've seen the crossguard, so in theory a lot is possible. You could have a lightsaber axe if you wanted. You could have a lightsaber bow and arrow.
Well, you do have a lightsaber axe. The Praetorian guys have them, don't they? Kind of.
Well, yeah, but it has.
Like
it's a metal or whatever that's made out of blade, and then you've got like the small bit of laser that runs down it.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Magma Guards, General Grievous.
Yeah, because he made them out of lightsaber resistant materials and stuff.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that's how the.
If people use that.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it was very similar to the material that the Mandalorians had, Mandalorian steel. Yeah, it could deflect, because that's why you see in the Old Republic Mandalorians fighting with Cortana blades against people with lightsabers, because it would work. You'd be able to deflect that. You wouldn't be able to cut through doors, but you'd be able to. You wouldn't lose your head as quickly.
Other proxies of the Darksaber would be pretty cool as well.
See, I didn't really like the Darksaber.
It's cool because there's one. That's why it's got a bit of a fable myth to it.
I didn't because I think when we first saw the Darksaber, they didn't openly say that it was part of the Old Republic. It was just a thing.
It's hinted at being like a sort of prototype to a lightsaber.
Yeah.
And they're saying the first Jedi was Mandalorian and all kind of crap like that.
Yeah, but I just didn't like it was part of the lightsaber lineup. I suppose it was part of the issue that I had with the pink saber and all that. But that's a different story. There was a point that someone who started to watch our videos around our pink lightsaber video and now has gone into the podcast mentioned, and his name is Traken Tercept. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
I think so.
He mentioned that with synthetic crystals, it wasn't just the Sith that did that, because obviously, and I'm kind of sad that I didn't realise this from the get-go. It was Luke who used a synthetic crystal in his second saber because, of course, he was limited to the parts that he had, and also he wasn't able to go out and physically harvest a green kyber crystal.
Imaginably, all the sites to collect kyber crystals must have been destroyed or...
Yeah, I mean, because Ilum was taken over by the Empire because it was, Anakin's apprentice.
Oh, Ahsoka.
Yeah, Ahsoka, who went to Ilum and saw that it had been taken over by the Empire.
Yeah.
And also something that I wanted to say, and thank you for pointing it out, Traken, it was, and I didn't realise this either, that apparently Plagueis, he actually wanted to tear down the rule of two. He wanted to go against Darth Bane's teachings, and he wanted to go back to kind of more like an Old Republic regime where everyone kind of shared the power as opposed to just one person having it and one person to crave it, which of course was what the rule of two was, which is pretty cool. But
rule of two never really works. Everyone always gets betrayed anyway.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't really know which regime is worse. To be fair, whether you have loads of people fighting over the position of emperor, or whether you have the master that's constantly under threat of being killed by the apprentice. They're both equally kind of awful.
Yeah.
So I suppose it explains why it never really works out. So something that I wanted to lead into is something that Harrison and I are working on. If I pause this and bring that up. So we've got our Light of the Saber Facebook page, and this is where we post just interesting facts or little bits of information that we find interesting within the Star Wars universe, and try and build up a bit of a fandom from that. It's linked to the podcast, and it was created like 3 or 4 years ago, and I've been posting up stuff for The Force Awakens and then The Last Jedi and then standalone films and stuff like that. But something that I've come up with is kind of like an incentive challenge where we would have an imperial ranking system based on the amount of views that we would get for our independent posts. So, but it would only apply to the posts that we personally write, so no reposts of anything that's just like a fan picture. So it'd be informational stuff within the Star Wars universe, or actors, or stories, or anything like that. So I'm going to go through the ranks as I've labelled them. And this is purely based off of the Imperial Handbook, which, although Legends, is still really cool, and I'd recommend picking up because it's a lot of fun just to read. So it's more ranks and positions as just opposed to ranks. But the first rank is Recruit, and that'll be us within the Imperial training facilities and things like that, the Academy. And you need 1,000 views in order to get to that.
Can we skip that part? We've already been to one academy.
No. And then stationed on base, we have sanitary, food distributor, and then domestic servant. And domestic servant is 5,000 to get to.
Nice. I guess I'll be sanitary forever.
And then we hop into the military. So we've got a lot of different versions of the Stormtroopers, and then each of them are followed by their commander variants. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can just imagine that they're all followed by their commander variants. So we've got the regular Stormtrooper, and then we've got the Marines, which we use as part of the boarding party and different ships and things like that. Bomb Trooper, so used for bomb disposal and also bomb deployment. Incinerator Trooper, which I suppose we see quite a lot of in Force Awakens, and then in stuff like Battlefront and stuff like that. And then the Hazard Trooper, which I put at the top of this list because the next bits of them are different environments, or different environment troopers. So this would give us like a jack of all trades position within the Empire, and then we would be able to branch out into these different factions.
Have you got like Evo Troopers and stuff like that?
Remind me an Evo Trooper.
It's the ones that have got purpose weather built gear, so it's like acid proof.
I'm guessing that would be a where was it? A RAD Trooper, which is to deal with radiation.
Probably.
So that'll be part of that. But yeah, so we've got next Aquatic Trooper, Scout Trooper. So they were the ones that we saw in Endor on the speeders. Sand Trooper.
Swim, walk around in the forest, or play on the beach.
Yeah, pretty much.
Turn up today.
Swamp Trooper, Snow Trooper, and then it drops down to Riot Trooper, because I believe at that point you would have built up a lot of physical strength, so you'd be able to deal with. And it's nice because then it'd be like, oh, we've gone to all these really unhospitable planets. Let's go back to Coruscant and just deal with a few. Yeah, just deal with a few people who don't like the fact that we're parading around. Yeah, so where am I? And then we've got Lava Trooper, so you'd be stationed on places like Mustafar. I can't think of any other lava planets. There was that one that they had the Separatist base on, that had the prison that Jedi was locked in and had like the 2 pieces of information. I can't remember where it was either, but you had that one as well. Then the Rad Trooper, which is the Radiation Trooper, Sky Trooper, and Space Trooper, being the most unhospitable of all environments, space itself. And the commander variant of that is 21,500 points. So then next we're moving on to the Imperial Navy. So I thought instead of going straight into TIE fighters and things like that, we'd probably be stationed on things like Imperial shuttles and non-combat situations, but we still learn how to pilot a ship in a weightless environment. So you've got Imperial shuttle co-pilot and then the pilot variant. Sentinel landing craft co-pilot and then the pilot variant, and Walker dropship pilot and the Imperial freighter pilot as well. I only put those without co-pilots because it didn't state in the handbook whether they had co-pilots, but the others it did. And then the best of the best, which of course is our TIE fighters. So you got a regular TIE fighter, TIE bomber, TIE interceptor, TIE advanced, and then I've got all the elite variants as well. But all of the elite variants will be the same cost of points, so this will allow us to actually choose which one we'd prefer to be.
As long as we don't do what EA do and do pay to play.
No.
The in-game content.
I think it'll be enough that we've actually got to this point. And then the experimental model TIE fighters, which is the TIE Aggressor, the TIE Hunter, the TIE Defender, TIE Defender, and the TIE Phantom. All of those pictures can be found online, as well as the Imperial Handbook. And I don't know why I put this as the category name, but Grand Walkers. So we've got the AT-AT Walker pilot, and then we've got the AT-TE pilot, AT-ST pilot, AT-PT pilot, AT-RT pilot, AT-DP pilot, and AT-AA pilot.
What's the A stand for? Alphabet.
And then they just go mental with this one, SPHA pilot, which is the, on Geonosis, you've got the they look like hover tanks, but they do actually have lots of legs. They're kind of like centipedes. The tanks that use the energy beams to bring down the separatist orbs. Apparently, they have those within the Imperial Regiment as well.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
So you got the elite, and then we go back to Stormtroopers for a little bit. We've got the elite Stormtrooper units, which is the Emperor's Royal Guard, the Nova Trooper, and then the Coruscant Guard as well.
Have you got the Imperial Commandos?
I'm not sure if I'll add them to the list, to be fair, because we've already got enough commanders within the actual Stormtrooper regiments themselves. Come on, load. And then last of all, we've got the Spies and Secret Police category, which will be the Imperial Intelligence and the Imperial Security Bureau. There we go.
Bureau.
Thank you. And then the last of all, which is the ones that we're probably most familiar with, is Naval Officer rank. So we've got Midshipman, Lieutenant, Captain, Admiral, Fleet Admiral, and then High Admiral.
High Admiral.
And that is it. That is our cut-off point. We're not going any further than that.
Man, your eyes are really red, Admiral. What's going on?
I've gone through all the ranks.
High Admiral.
All of them.
Seen some stuff you've never seen.
So yeah, that's, what do you think?
Smashing.
It could be cool. I mean, I feel like at the beginning there's going to be a lot of, oh my god, I've got to put out as many posters as possible just to get ahead, and we'll probably end up getting down to the early Stormtrooper stuff, but then we'll probably ease out a bit, and then it would just be nice to be like, oh, by the way, we're now an Aquatic Trooper, or whatever we've got to.
Oh, definitely, that's a good idea.
I'll do a post count once every 2 weeks when I upload the podcasts, but what I'm going to do is it's a bit of a shout out to Order 66, something that you haven't reached yet. Where I'll do a count for all the way up to 66 posts. Then all of those totals will be taken and added to the full total, and then once we start again, any of those posts which were part of the original 66 count won't like if they get any more views, they won't count towards the overall total. Because otherwise, I'm counting 100,000 posts, and it seems a bit ridiculous. So I always keep them on like a 66 rotation. Sound good?
Sounds really good.
Cool. Yeah, I thought about it just a little bit.
I'll see you at the firing line.
There you go. See if we actually get past the base stuff.
I mean, if you want to trade your mop and bucket for blasters.
Yeah, for blasters, if you want to be beaten up by tiny teddy bears or thrown into the most unforgiving environments.
They're throwing rocks at us. Shoot back.
Shoot back. We can deflect the rocks with our faces. So, even though we've done a full podcast on this, Tom and I feel like I'd like to know your views on this, Eleanor. We've just finished watching episode 2. Mm-hmm. You've now got one Star Wars film left to watch out of all of them, and then you're pretty much fully caught up. Obviously, yeah. I won't subject you to Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. That's something, if you're interested in, you can go off and investigate.
Yeah, this is where he takes the shackles and chains off.
Yeah, this is it. You're free.
Free will.
So what did you think? I mean, obviously, expectations were probably cut in half, if not more, after episode 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, there were some cool moments in episode 1, but
Use
apart
your
from that...
anger.
Give in to your anger!
So,
I suppose, but they were overshadowed a bit, though, the cool moments, by the amount of garbage that we had to wade through.
Search your feelings.
You know it to be true. But yeah, I mean the pod race in episode 1 was cool, and then obviously the finale. The finale was pretty cool with Darth Maul.
You mean the finale?
Yeah, I did. Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan. But what did you think about episode 2?
I preferred it massively to episode 1. I think there were a lot of improvements in terms of lore expansion and even acting. Because naturally, that's what I gravitate.
I mean, the one that you really latched onto was
there's less racism.
There is less racism.
I
mean, I think that's something that we can all enjoy. But Natalie Portman's acting, you pointed out in episode 1, was just unbelievably.
It was extremely wooden.
It was.
I
but
must save the Empire. Oh, no.
But she did improve. I mean, there were still points where you thought, oh my gosh. And I was talking to Eleanor about this before we actually started watching. During my younger years, my only experience of what it was like to be in love or how to approach someone that you were in love with was based purely off of episode 2, 3, and then Free Willy. So scenes with like when they're sitting together around the fire, and he says, "From the moment I met you all those years ago, and not a day has gone by when I haven't thought about you, and now I'm with you again. I'm in agony. The closer I get to you, the worse it gets, the thought of not being with you." And then she says in the Geonosian arena just before they go out, she says, "I've been dying a bit more each day. What was it? I've been dying a bit more since the moment you came back into my life."
That's so reverse.
It does. It's like a lot of other Star Wars fans and people in other podcasts have said that like this is the most poisonous relationship it could have been. And a point that Turnbull made, and I quite agree with, is that to sympathise with Vader's fall, you kind of had to like Anakin to start off with, and then you also had to sympathise with the pain that was caused by. Well, I'm not sure if you can really call it a breakup, but how the relationship was ended between Padme and Anakin.
Betrayal.
Yeah.
You turned against me.
You've done that yourself. You want to take off on me?
There's that sort of prowling jaguar.
Yeah. But Anakin just can't stand still.
He was like a shark. He was like.
Well, no, but Count Dooku was more like a shark when he had Obi-Wan in that kind of rotating prison on Geonosis. But yeah, you had to kind of like and relate to their relationship to begin with in order to actually feel anything.
I mean, spoilers ahead. It gets pretty good when you see the ending of that.
Oh yeah, I mean, you still feel something, but I really do feel like you felt so much more.
When he finds out where she is or whatever, it's like I felt for him then because he didn't know what he'd caused.
No,
but the whole thing of how she went was really stupid. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
die of a broken heart.
Did you see what they were originally going to do with the original art for Revenge of the Sith? They were going to have her attempt to assassinate Anakin because she brought a knife with her, which would have been pretty cool because she would have been conflicted, but less like she was when she went to him. She was still trying to redeem him and still trying to deny these things, but in their original vision, she'd almost accepted it and it's like, right, this is my opportunity to play my part for the universe. I've got to stop this before it starts.
And Annie makes a really good point. That whole "you're breaking my heart" line is incredibly cringy to
You're breaking my heart! Go down a path I can't follow!
It's just so cringy to hear. It's like, you just killed the moment, Padme.
I mean, and something that I said to Turnbull, I mean, I know lots of people hate Anakin's transformation to the dark side because they say it's too sudden, but based off my own experiences with depression and things like that, my fall can be very quick, so I related to that on a personal level. But looking at it from a filmmaker's point of view and what it must have been for the audience, it was extremely quick. There was no kind of build up to it. I mean, even you, when you saw it in episode 2, he was just kind of well, when I say charming, his own version of charming, but in our version of incredibly creepy.
With that really creepy smile.
With that incredibly, I'm going to lock you up forever kind of smile.
You're going to be tied to the wall, Padme.
Yeah. And then went to this psychotic, I've killed them all, they're dead, every single one of them kind of.
Yeah, that whole scene was incredibly crazy.
I love the scene because they throw in the Vader music and it's Hayden Christensen acting I can kind of get on board with, and just her look of shock is very genuine because she still wants to help him, but it's kind of like a mother realizing that a child has stolen something or done something really, really bad. She couldn't quite believe he was capable of it.
It's sort of like a predetermined sort of thought as well. Oh, this guy's going to probably go off the boat soon and go a bit darker.
Yeah.
It's like, you've done this, what's next? Oh, no.
But then she tries to justify it by saying to be angry is to be human, which is quite right, but she, in a way, it's almost like a self-denial mechanism where she's put that in place for herself so that her friend in her eyes won't be this just psychopath and nothing else.
Here's me find out she was actually Palpatine's spy. She was like,
good!
Good, honey, good.
Excellent.
Did you kill the dogs as well? Yes, you did. Yeah.
Did you walk in a straight line and use only one set of footprints? Yes, you did.
But nah, I still like that scene despite lots of people hating on it. I mean, for you, Harrison, with episode 2, I know we've gone a bit off of our original topic with lightsabers, but
that's right. I was pretty much finished, wasn't it?
But with episode 2, what was your kind of favourite moments?
Well, I did really like how Obi-Wan went to Kamino. That was really cool.
Yeah, I just hate the kind of cut back and forth between that and Naboo.
And
it was like, if you've forgotten what's going on Naboo, even though you don't care.
And here's Naboo for you.
Here's Anakin riding a giant turd monster. Oh, I trampled him. Oh, he's still alive.
Jango Fett made that film a lot better as well. All the stuff involved.
I mean, he went out less of a punk like Boba Fett did. That was nice because he really was trying his best against Mace, but obviously he stood zero chance. But yeah, I don't know whether it redeems Boba Fett as a character though.
No, I don't think so. Yeah. It leads on for some Clone Wars story.
It does, yeah. I mean, I really like what they did with his story arc. That was cool.
He still looks like a little bitch though.
Yeah. The basic thing, because I'm guessing you're not going to go into the Clone Wars any time.
Probably not.
No. He swears vengeance on the Jedi and goes to these extraordinary lengths. Like he board a capital ship or with a couple of clone recruits and then does he crash the ship?
He sabotages the engines.
He sabotages the engines, crashes, and then hides a bomb inside Jango Fett's old helmet. Yeah.
Oh,
for Mace Windu, because that's the one he's going to target. I mean, I don't think he has any kind of good feelings towards any Jedi, but Mace Windu was definitely his target in that.
Well, he did do a little shish kebab with his dad.
He did a little bit, yeah. Which was rather unfortunate.
Oh, I got this purple blade. I don't have it anymore.
Even Samuel L. Jackson did that kind of like, yes, look at the head after he chopped it off. I guess he kind of sensed that there was like a moment of a tremor of shock from Boba way up high in the
all of a sudden,
the observatory.
Thousands of voices cried out in sorrow.
And was suddenly silence.
All the clones are just suddenly really sad. It's like,
aww.
Now there's a shrine in Tapoka City.
Yeah. But,
And just generally, the clones being in the film was alright.
it was, yeah.
The Battle of Geonosis is really cool.
It was really cool, but after all the talking that we had to get through just to get to that, we were. I mean, especially me, after I've seen that film so many times, I was kind of at a state of like, finally, and also can this end?
I mean,
I want to get to the fight with Dooku and.
They make the Battle of Geonosis out to be such a massive bloody campaign.
Mm.
In the film, it looks like it's progressing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, if you, especially with the Rise of the Empire campaign from Battlefront 2, the one who's talking from the 501st, he says like, you can't imagine the blood and the screams and the dying.
Generic Clone 1.
Generic Clone 1. And I suppose that's something that you didn't really get to see. Well, obviously because it's a film for kids, but also because they had to progress the story. You can't.
That scene where the clones are slowly walking into that little dust storm was really cool as well.
That was very cool, although I was watching that quite carefully and I didn't see one clone go down, but lots of droids did. I suppose because the clones have the... But would droids need that? I mean, what kind of vision do they run off of it? Is heat sensory or what?
I'm assuming it must be some kind of heat sensory, or maybe some sort of target program to detect what an enemy is.
Because would a cloud of dust mean anything to them?
I always think of the droids like Terminators. They must have some sort of threat awareness system to know, oh, we can shoot that first, maybe it's a bigger threat, like this is a tank.
Yeah, like a priority thing.
Yeah,
because otherwise they'd just be targeting the one.
I mean, what you see the droids doing most, they're walking like massive armies of thousands at a time, just shooting straight at them.
Well, that was something that I was saying to Eleanor earlier today as well, was that the droids by themselves, like the battalion of 8, if you can call it that was sent to deal with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in Episode 1, that was nothing. But when they're just fleet after, or like squad after squad, they're a bit more menacing. Even though they're still slapsticky, they're just relentless and quite dangerous. Because most of the Jedi that went down in the Battle of Geonosis, my theory is they just went down from pure exhaustion. Yeah. As opposed to having any kind of lacking in their training.
As well, we always forget with that battle, they're fighting in quite an enclosed space.
Yeah, there's
quite a small arena.
It's a arena that they probably aren't familiar with.
And there's so much going on there as well. You can't really move around.
No.
So I reckon it's more they've sort of stuck in one
place. Which I suppose is quite accurate, but also makes it even more implausible that R2 was just able to just roll around, not get damaged at all. Thankfully, he was at waist height for most of the droids, so they're just shooting at him and
they can only shoot straight, you know. So.
Yeah, no downwards. Jedi just have to crouch and you're fine. But we'll wrap up this episode of the podcast. So thank you very much, Harrison, for joining us. Thank you very much,
Aaron. You're welcome, man.
You're welcome.
And once again, whether you be Jedi or Sith, Rebel Scum or Empire, Resistance or the First Order, CIS or the Galactic Republic or Mandalorians. No more?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you usually add one at the end. Yeah, Mon Calamari. Gosh darn. And we hope you have a very good evening, day, or whatever time it is, wherever you are.
Search your feelings.
Search your feelings. You know it to be true. To like, subscribe, and join us next week. I love that. That's brilliant. There we go. That was good. So, thank you very much, and see you again next week.